reinforces, what is certain is that there's far more we don't know than what we know.
Yeah, agreed. You said just a few minutes ago that you know for an absolute certainty that there's technology way, way in advance from what the public... Can you share one or two of those that you know about that the public don't really know of?
Giving away all my secrets here.
Not all 10 of them, but maybe one or two.
Okay. All right. Well, here's something that has been acknowledged now by the U.S. government. In fact, you can find some information about it online. If you look up a Fersteam, a fast emergency response team, right? Fersteams were, I'd certainly never heard of it before Benghazi. Before the Benghazi attack happened, Cheryl Atkinson was the CBS reporter who first reported on this in a big way. There was a lot of back and forth and arguing and theatrical performance, quite frankly, in some respects, over whether or not the United States could have done anything to save Christopher Stevens, its first ambassador who was murdered in more than half a century, and the other American citizens who were killed in Benghazi during that terrorist attack. And, we got all tied up in knots in the media with all these, which plane was where and which unit was where and who knew what and who gave what order and was it one attack or two and did they know the second was coming, and all this, quite frankly, nonsense, absolute white noise. Because as Cheryl Atkinson reported, we had FEST teams, fast emergency response teams, specifically designed for one purpose and one purpose only, which is to protect U.S. soil anywhere on the globe. What does that mean? U.S. embassies and special mission compounds and diplomatic facilities for whatever nation they belong to, they are considered to be on that nation's soil. So the ground on which the special mission compound in Benghazi stood was considered to be U.S. soil, same for the embassy in Tripoli and so on and so on. So we have teams designed for every continent whose sole purpose was to respond so quickly that they could get anywhere on the planet, anywhere from the United States to that designation in 2 hours or less. And the first time I heard that, I thought, nonsense. That's impossible. Absolutely impossible. But I can tell you, I was wrong. And I have since spoken to people who were on those teams, who are familiar with that technology, who have confirmed that that is the case, and who, let's just say, described being shot into space, launched, like you would launch a missile almost, right? I mean, it's a whole different type of technology and travel that, none of us have ever been exposed to, or most of us have never been exposed to. And, some of us couldn't even imagine.
So Fersteam, Fersteam, is that how you say it? That the abbreviation?
Yeah, I mean, the way Americans say it, they say Fersteam, but...
Yeah, but that's the anagram, that's the... Not the anagram, the...
acronym.
Acronym, that's it. So Fersteam. Okay. So literally, they're being shot into space. And so is it kind of a small rocket that they're in, or is it a source, or is it something else, or?
I don't know. I just know that at a certain trajectory, the floor folds up underneath you and you drop.
The floor folds up.
That's what I was told. Now, have I seen it? No. Do I trust the various sources? Yes.
Huh. That's interesting. That's 87, Fersteam. That's stellar. So when you say the floor drops out, that's making me think of like almost a fun fair ride where they spin you around and then because of the centrifuge pushing you out, the floor drops. You're not talking about something like that because you said two things. You said it gets propelled into space, but then the floor drops. What do you mean by the floor drop?
No, I said then the floor folds up.
Sorry, the floor folds up. Meaning what?
Meaning there isn't a floor then after that.
Okay. So what they can see, so if you and me were in this, get catapulted into space, and then the floor folds up, you're meaning so we could just see the Earth below us, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah. And that's when you're wondering, why on earth am I doing this? And you can imagine the G-forces at that point. Every fluid you have is leaving your body.
Wow.
And you drop to target. And there's a lot I don't know, right? I mean,
when you say you drop, so the people they drop because everything's drained out of them. They go into a different state. They drop, or the capsule drops with them in it.
I don't know. But what I can tell you is those teams are made up of individuals who have extraordinary ability to leapfrog the chain of command and bring, like, each person represents a certain, somebody will represent basically your air support, right? There'll be a person who's responsible for that, who's able to get you the kind of air support that you need instantly, instead of having to go through the normal chain of command and the normal rules of engagement and so on and so on. I mean, you've undergone specialized training, and you have unique abilities to bring to bear whatever assets, whatever national, defense asset it is that you have been trained in and represent, that you have the ability to bring that to bear very, very quickly. Because, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that if your embassy in a foreign land gets attacked and you're going to go in and defend it, it's not going to help if you get there 3 days later and then you've got to, it's going to take you all day to call in an airstrike, right? I mean, speed matters in that situation. And so they create these highly specialized teams which have the right capabilities, every capability that they believe that you would need to defend that ground, that soil. And those teams were never activated during the Benghazi attack. That team that is specifically trained for that area of the world was never even activated. And that would be the first call you would make to the guys who you've spent hundreds of millions of dollars to train and maintain those teams is an unimaginable fortune. And yet you would squander it. Now, they may have been, I don't quite remember, they may have been called, activated sometime after it was all over. I'm trying to remember if they were not activated at all, but during the attack, they were not activated. And they could have been there before, if they'd been activated when Chris Stevens made that first call from his compound saying we're under attack. And they were watching on the feed, they were watching those terrorists, storm the special mission compound and overwhelm the Americans there long before, the attack happened at the annex, the secondary location. If they had called the Fersteam, by design, they were created and funded specifically to be there in time to deal with that. And they were not activated.
Fast emergency response team or foreign emergency? What's the FER?
Fast
emergency response team.
You can look it up. I think it's even on the Defense Department and State Department websites. One of the two, or maybe both at this point.
Do you know?
Looked it up for a while.
Do you know when they have been activated and deployed? Have you got examples of that?
I don't. Well, I do have one, but I don't think I can talk about it.
Okay. And you gave the example, US soil embassies around the world. So is there one place in the US they're activated from? Are there a number of launch pads?
Well, those things, locations and things like that, those are all classified.
Okay. So that was one that you've shared with us. Could you share a second one with us out of the many, probably 10, 12 examples you have?